We just blew up apparently a couple more alleged drug boats off the coast of either Colombia or Venezuela. I'm not sure which. I'm just seeing the reports on MSNBC. You knew Hugo Chavez and you knew President Maduro,
yes,
of Venezuela.
Yes.
And also we're seeing reports, by the way, that Maduro is saying that he just foiled a false flag attack, that the CIA, a CIA-funded criminal cell was going to attack the USS Gravely, a naval destroyer that's in Trinidad. He says this is just like this. He says it's the same imperial script as the Maine ship. Remember the Maine World War, the Spanish-American War, and the Gulf of Tonkin, fabricating a conflict.
Tonkin. Yes, exactly.
So what's going on here? What's the deal with us in Venezuela?
Three things you have to know about Venezuela. They have the largest reserves of oil on the planet. Second, they have the largest reserves of oil on the planet. And third, they have the largest reserves of oil on the planet. According to OPEC, it's literally they have 4 times as much oil as Saudi Arabia. So let me tell you something. If Venezuela's main export were broccoli, we wouldn't be blowing up boats and talking about removing their president. Okay? That's pretty simple. And so, yes, I was a BBC television reporter assigned to cover Venezuela and, by the way, and Trinidad. And these boats that they were blowing up, even little Marco Rubio said that the boats were headed from Venezuela to Trinidad, which is only 7 miles across the water. It's like here in LA, we go to Catalina. These are commuters, workers, and the people that we've been able to identify are absolutely not drug dealers. When have you ever seen a U.S. prosecutor grab a drug boat and not show you the drugs, not give you the names of the drug dealers, not show you the guns and the weapons? Because these are literally just commuters between Trinidad and Venezuela. Yes, they got a couple of real drug boats, no question. But those are coming out of Venezuela up the Pacific coast. Venezuela does not have any seafront on the Pacific Ocean, only the Caribbean. But it's all about this oil. Chevron is dying to get its hands on the oil. They're there, and Trump has said unless there's a regime change, they will not be allowed to take their oil out of Venezuela. Exxon wants oil back. They left the country. So it's about, guess what? It's about the oil. And, that's what it's about.
Do you think Maduro's charge that the CIA was plotting a false flag attack on one of the destroyers, the U.S. destroyers in the region?
I understand. This is our 4th attempt to remove the elected government of Venezuela. Remember, the U.S. was behind or supported the kidnapping of Hugo Chavez in 2002, which the U.S. government thought if we kidnapped Chavez, the people would rise up against him. They'd be so happy that this dictator was gone. In fact, it was like the Bay of Pigs. We literally had a couple 100,000 people surround the coup plotters in the presidential palace. And I talked with Chavez actually through his people while he was kidnapped.
Louise and I were there the day that happened.
Yes,
Louise and I were in Venezuela
in Caracas.
No, we were actually on a cruise ship, and it docked there the day that happened. Just total coincidence. Anyhow, back to you.
So what's happened is we keep now. One thing to understand: Hugo Chavez, despite what the U.S. State Department said, was incredibly popular. I actually was also not only was I basically a friend of Hugo Chavez. I tend not to be friends of politicians, but I was also close with Maduro, the current president. And I got to tell you, Chavez was very popular. He was elected by landslides. I don't care what the State Department said, but I got to tell you, I'm sorry, my progressive friends, Maduro stole the last election. He won his first 2, but the last one he did lose. He won't leave office. My good friend, has become a dictator. Now, he visited me in New York, but a dictator's a dictator. I don't care, and I have to say so. But we're not talking, if you're talking about removing dictators who are moving drugs, according to the latest New Yorker investigation, the big drug cartel running coke into the United States is based in Abu Dhabi. Remember, that's, we're talking about the Emirates, which gave $2 billion to Trump buying his coins. They gave him a 747, not to the U.S. government, but personally to Donald Trump. And so they're not being overthrown.
Well, wait a second. How does Qatar provide drugs to the United States? They're in the Middle East.
It's the Kinahan organized drug gang, which is, so if you read the United Nations World Drug Report, they say Venezuela is just not a source of production or distribution of drugs, because obviously they're on the Caribbean. There's no way that an intelligent drug dealer is going to involve the Venezuelan government in this type of activity. Mm-hmm. So the Kinahan organized drug cartel is run out of Abu Dhabi. Read the latest New Yorker, and but not Chavez or Maduro. So the question is, do we want to remove a head of state by bullets or by ballots? And that's what I think we need to work on, that issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, wow. What do we do with this, Greg? I mean, how I get it that, it seems like there's two separate issues here. Number one is that Donald Trump killing these people in these boats, these people who are commuting back and forth between Trinidad and Venezuela, the 7-mile stretch of water there. That is a crime. That is murder on the high seas. As the president of Pinto, I think his name is, or Pina, the president of Colombia.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, has pointed out. So you've got that.
And by the way, the government of Trinidad and the president of Trinidad, by the way, is a big Trump fan. Yeah. But she said, you killed 2 of our citizens, these are kids who are just commuting to work from Venezuela.
Right.
And that's a real close Trump ally.
And we had their names for that was like a 3-hour story here in the American media.
Yeah. I'm looking for their names, but it's one Indian descent kid, because that's typical in Trinidad, and an African and a Trinidadian African. And they were just, these are kids who were killed because they were commuting to work. But the key thing, again, is the attempt to seize oil. And I should say, by the way, according to the Wall Street Journal, the Trump administration, on background to the Journal, was very direct. We're either going to kidnap or kill Maduro. We're going to change their president. The problem is we could end up with another Bay of Pigs like we did in 2002 in Venezuela, or like as we did in Cuba, where Venezuelans may not like Maduro right now because the economy is devastated by the U.S. embargo, which doesn't allow their oil out and doesn't allow oil equipment in to keep the oil flowing. They're down to 700,000 barrels a day of production versus the 2.4 million barrels a day they used to have. Now, why do we care? Because that's about I'm an energy economist by training and statistician, and I can tell you it's roughly between 50 cents and $1 added to the pump price of our gas. So we have done that by creating an embargo on Venezuela, where we've lost 2 million barrels a day of potential production into the world supply. This is serious stuff. So I think that Trump's idea is that we'll get a hold of the oil, the price of gasoline will come down, and he'll be reelected to his 3rd term.
I understand that, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, that the only major refinery in the United States that can refine this heavy kind of tar-like oil that comes out of Venezuela is owned by the Koch family, Charles Koch and his family.
Well, yes.
If that's true, why is he not leaning on Trump, or is he leaning on Trump? I mean, does that play a role in this?
I've been following the Kochs for a while. Obviously, they would do very, very well if we got a hold of that oil, because they took over the Sun Oil refineries on the Texas coast, which were specifically designed just to refine Venezuelan super heavy oil. It's really gunky stuff, and only a few refineries can do it. Also, a couple Citgo refineries, which were owned by the government of Venezuela. The U.S. government actually seized Citgo refineries and gave it to this guy Juan Guaido, a white guy who was living in Washington, that we tried to foist on Venezuela as president. In the end, he never ran, because you have to understand it's a black and Indian mestizo nation. And until Chavez, they never had one of their own. It was always a white president. So they're not going to go back to an apartheid system. But again, Maduro is unpopular because of the embargo. And imagine, by the way, if Texas were told you can't sell your oil outside of Texas, you can't get any supplies.
Yeah. Greg Abbott would melt down. Yeah, I get it. Greg,
So,
you always bring the goods. Thank you so much for illuminating this issue for us. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Tom. Thank you.
And if you stick around for about 5 minutes, you'll hear your little song there. Thanks a lot, Greg.
Sing along.
There you go. 18 minutes past the hour.